Hello. It's hard to believe another week has gone by. It's Friday and it's time for another live stream. And today we're going to be talking about step one as taken from the alternative 12 steps, a secular guide to recovery. But before we get into that, I thought I'd chat with Angela for a little bit, see how she's doing over there, and maybe get her impressions of the virtual ICSA that we had last week.
Yeah. Well, happy Friday, everyone. The virtual ICSA. When I first tried to log in, I was one of the ones that couldn't get in and was confused as to what was going on. And so I did message, saying that perhaps they should change the main speaker to the Oh My God room, because I knew that Oh My God had the ability to have more than 100 people in there. But
both rooms should have had more than
that. Nobody knew that, and so so as far as we knew, everybody was like, wait, didn't the Beyond Belief in Toronto know they needed more than and
I know they had the main speaker and only 100 people looking.
So it was kind of
It
funny.
was nerve-wracking.
I mean, it wasn't funny for you guys behind the scenes, and
it was like, oh crap, only 100 people, what are we gonna do? And then, so we did the live stream thing real quick, and then we posted the link on our website, and try to let people know that's where you can go to listen to it. And I guess that turned out pretty well, but boy, I'm glad that we were able to do that. Otherwise we would have been in a real bind.
Right. So I watched it from the YouTube, and that was totally fine and stuff. It was just a crazy experience. And like I said,
you had a pretty good group over there on YouTube watching it too. I think there's like maybe 15, 20, 30 people sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So much more manageable for cross-talking, I think.
Yeah. So, you guys could comment and chat while it's going on.
Right. Yeah. And so, that was good. I mean, he had some great slides, a lot of good information. What else did I attend that day? I attended several of them. And so popped in and out in a couple of different places and got a taste for some of the topics. And it was good. I really loved the history one. I just love the enthusiasm for history by the three writers of the books that were there. So I thought that was pretty cool, and to see a bunch of other people that were interested in it as well. So so as far as I knew, it went okay. I did start to go into that last thing, but the skit was an AA skit. and I had some flashbacks and some PTSD, I think.
It was a good skit and everything, but the thing is that the latency through the whatever the thing is, the internet thing didn't work out too well.
Yeah, but it was a good try. I mean, good effort, and you don't know unless you try, right? I'm guessing that you guys learned a lot and
we
putting
did.
It on.
We did. I was going to tell people we did. I've got it here somewhere. We've got the link to, here it is. So that link there is to the Secular AA YouTube channel, and it goes to the video of the Hank Parkhurst Blackout Players. And I know, Angela, you're not going to want to miss it. So head on over there, and you can enjoy it without any of the latency issues that we had that day.
Okay, cool. Nice.
But from this end, it was like I didn't get to. I mean, I guess I was physically there and listening to what was going on, but I didn't really take anything in because it seemed like I was always typing to somebody, answering a question, figuring something out, something like that, So I'm going to have to go back and I'd like to listen to the history panel. I'd like to listen to Dr. Koob and the other doctors. And I also want to listen to the women's panel.
Yeah. It was great.
I heard the good things about that.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. So shall we get into the topic today? It's about step one.
Sure.
And, sometimes I prepare more than other times for these live streams. It kind of depends upon how my week is going and what's going on at work.
Mhm.
Today, what I did, I read the chapter and I started just highlighting passages that were meaningful to me, and it turned out it's like almost the entire chapter got highlighted. It
Yeah,
was really, really good. I thought I like the way that they presented this step,
definitely.
and I do like the idea of focusing on principles, and the principles here were insight and honesty.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I reread over it, although, I've been using it for a long time. It's always
Hmm.
good to go over it again. And it, yeah, remember why I like it so much. And the way that it talks about, the problem. And I don't think it's on the screen there, but the step one is admit we are powerless over other people, random events, and our own persistent negative behaviors, and that when we forget this, our lives become unmanageable. And just phrasing it that way makes it a lot easier for people I talk to to be
Yeah.
able to be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Usually there's still resistance because the powerless word is can be troublesome, or problematic, for some of us who have experienced powerlessness in our life,
Hmm.
due to another person. But it's still phrased, I think, it's more understandable to me about
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about. And
Yeah.
yeah.
They didn't entirely avoid the concept of powerlessness, though. The way they presented it, I thought, and tell me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they presented it as that we don't have power, and having that admission empowers us, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do we want to read from some of it and talk about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, you just read the step itself, and I like this is something that could be used for anything. Admitted we are
Hmm.
powerless over other people, random events, and our own persistent negative behaviors, and that when we forget this, and this is what was so interesting to
Hmm.
me, that when we forget this, our lives become unmanageable.
Right.
So, what I highlighted, the first thing was step one gives us the insight and honesty to admit that we are not managing our lives very well, that a lot of things are beyond our control, and that we live with emotional pain. It is the first step in our road to serenity. We can begin to use the affirmation of serenity that millions of people have used before us. And then they have the serenity affirmation or
Yeah.
serenity prayer. Today, I seek the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Nice.
Yeah.
For people who are, who don't want to bother with praying, and I totally
Hmm.
understand that. That's a nice way of doing it. A nice way of looking at it is just today I seek the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. It's just a reminder of those things that help.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the great things about this book too, is that they do, present it from a more, I guess, neutral place of addiction,
Yeah.
or um, um, what is the word I'm looking for? Codependency, or things like that. And so, I can read that and see a bunch of people that I know that don't have um, any addictions that are outwardly visible. you know
Mhm.
that they just that they struggle with that feeling, the need to control because the world is so out of control. And um, and that I think maybe I will just copy these pages and put that in my holiday card to send out to everybody, and
Mhm.
it'll be a subtle hint, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
those work.
Yep.
But anyway.
I like the discussion about denial. She's
Mhm.
wrote something about denial and self-deception.
Mhm.
Unexamined lives are often lives lived in denial. I never thought of that before,
Yeah.
but That's very true. That's really interesting when you think about it, that the unexamined life is a life lived in denial, and that we actually go through that self-examination process through the steps, kind of helps bring us out of that denial, I guess, into reality.
Right.
Denial is not conscious lying. It is
Mhm.
simply self-deception, a series of personal blind spots. We don't have to be bad people or have bad problems in order to engage in self-deception. The only requirement is that we don't want to know all the truth about ourselves or our lives. Isn't that the truth? We
Mhm.
use our wonderfully complex brains to deny an obscure reality and to keep on believing that we are managing, that we are in control.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite lines. The we use our wonderfully complex brains to deny an obscure reality and to keep on believing that we are managing and we are in control. And I think I like that partially because when I, was first in recovery, and read that, I liked that they acknowledged that, that our complex brains are wonderful,
Yeah, yeah.
whereas in a lot of the rooms, I got a lot of the, you're too smart for this program, and things like that. And so I loved that part, that it's, acknowledging that, but it is bringing about, what the difficulty is with having a complex brain, is that yeah, this is one of the things we used it for, was trying to convince ourselves that we're in control and able to manage things.
And I've mentioned this before whenever I share my story, but the thing that shocked me the most when I got sober, started going to AA, was the denial. I
Hmm.
could, it was like, because it was like waking up, and it's like, I can't believe this. What was I doing? It was absolute insanity. But I I was denying. I was just denying what was obviously going on in my life. I guess it was my way of coping. I don't know, but I, you know, it was just it was a trap, and it was just my way of dealing with life, I guess. And when I broke through that denial, it was a real shock to me, and it was kind of scary in a way, Angela, because I remember thinking that I couldn't trust my thinking because if I was denying something like this, what else could I be covering up?
Right.
It was like I didn't even know who I was anymore. And that's really almost really kind of true in a way, because I didn't. I had to figure out who I was, and I think the rest of the steps kind of gave me a way of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what they say in the next paragraph. You didn't underline it, I don't think. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, you did. That we want to feel good about ourselves without having to change,
Change.
and denial is our shortcut. And
Yep.
yeah, and I see that, like I said, in a lot of people, not just in those of us who have substance use issues or disorders or unordered substance use, or whichever it
Yeah.
is this week.
Yeah.
But particularly right now, I think Joe mentioned that, this is great, this step in particular, for the holiday season and kind of where we're at in world events right now and stuff. It was pretty good to take a look at that again, because I do get extremely frustrated, and in my area there's multiple frustrating things happening
Hmm.
at the same time. Lots of fun events this last week, and I get stuck here
Yeah.
in all of this stuff, and part of it is self-righteousness, like, but they're the ones that are doing bad things, but yeah, I am the one who has to change my thinking and come to, you know some different way of dealing with it, either acceptance and then figuring out what things are proactive, or some other thing. But I don't want to change because they're the bad guys.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's very much a similar situation that I feel like I'm going through right now with this step, which is funny because when you mentioned it, I was like, John, it's December. We're supposed to do step 12.
That's
You
true.
only
Right.
talk about the step that of the month that you're in. I
Mhm.
mean, how many years is it going to take you to figure that
Right.
out? Keep coming back, buddy. But seriously, no. But this is exactly what I needed to hear today and to go through and to see, not only for myself, but there's a couple of people I've been talking to lately that, again, don't have, aren't involved in any sort of addiction recovery,
Yeah.
but that are having the same struggle that I am with some of the things and that are going on, and the frustration and helplessness and sometimes hopelessness, and so this is really good for me to reread and to be able to apply it to that, and so that I can share it, with the people who
Change
want it. Yeah.
change is hard and change is frightening. Nobody likes it. I never thought, when I was drinking that it was the fear that I needed to change, first of all. But in my life today, I never really stopped to think about it. But
Mhm.
there are certainly things that I need to change, and I really don't even stop to. Well, I guess I'm beginning to make some headway there. I mean, we did buy an exercise bike. I was able to last 10 minutes on it. And
All
I haven't touched it.
right.
That was like 3 days ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm not taking care of myself. And I
All
haven't really
right.
since this.
Sorry,
Oh,
my
that's
phone
okay.
had just decided to do its own thing. And it won't stop. There we go.
Boy, the sound of my own voice just drives me crazy.
I know, me too. Uh, yeah.
No, but yeah, I honestly haven't been taking care of myself since this whole COVID thing, not sleeping very good, not eating well, not really getting exercise, and it's really wearing on me, and
Yeah.
so for a long time, I just kind of didn't even think about it, I guess, was my shortcut, is not even thinking about it, maybe denying it, that I really needed to do anything. But I'm breaking out of it. I'm breaking out of it. I mean, I think I might get there, but the first step is only the first step, isn't it?
Right.
You have to really do
Yeah.
something.
Well,
Yeah.
and to have, again, some grace with ourselves over, what's happening in the world. I mean,
Oh,
it's
you ain't kidding.
I think it'd be unusual to be completely, okay and casual about stuff. I mean, we can have a sense of humor
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all of that, but anybody that, that would not be, isn't bothered at all by any of this, I
yeah.
would question whether they're, a sociopath or something. Because, yeah, even the Dalai Lama, I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I always think of him as being, pretty carefree, but yeah, he's got a lot of shit to deal with. I mean,
yeah,
he's an entire government within himself, and China doesn't like him. So, he's got lots more issues to deal with. But but yeah, I'm trying to have patience with how I, any ideas that come up of how I'm supposed to be behaving, or
mm,
particularly, I think there's some pressure within AA,
yeah,
that some of us have felt, that a person, if you've been sober so long, you're supposed to behave in such and such way, or be able to easily get over things or whatever. And right now I'm kind of, in the just
oh, we
throwing
have a
all of that
caller.
stuff out, that there isn't a certain way right now.
I see who this is. I wonder if this is Fred. Let's see. Hi, sorry I had you on hold for so
Hello.
long. Oh, Fred.
It is Fred. How
I
are you?
I'm okay. How you
How
doing?
you doing tonight?
Good.
Okay. Hi, Angela. How are you?
Hey, Fred, I'm
Listen,
doing all
hey,
right.
I was thinking about the emotional ringer that we go through,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and recently I talked to somebody that's near death, and they uh have decided to donate their body to the medical uh, uh, hospital, and then after that, whatever is left over get cremated. And I thought about that, and I said, you know, uh, when it's all over and done with, where do we go? So, as somebody who really doesn't know, I looked up an ancient poem from the Chinese, and Angela will love this because, they talked about taking a journey in the clouds.
Mm.
And, AA promises a silver lining to recovery in a way, because you get on that pink cloud when you're on that first step, and it's like you just feel so good when you first get that little bit of sobriety, because you never thought you could do it in the first place. So everything else is icing on the cake after that, And I really thought about how stress can really play hard in this pandemic time, because there's not much ways to release all the things that we used to do.
Right.
Now we don't have those avenues of release.
Yeah.
So, we're laying around here or doing our odd jobs or walking the dog or whatever, and still we feel like it's really mental masturbation because we don't have that outlet of the group.
Yeah.
We don't have that all the things that we talk about and share with others, and the contact that we had before with friends. All that is much more limited now, and it takes away from your living experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that the basically, if a newcomer is coming, we have to welcome them and then help them to understand themselves. And the best thing to do for me is breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Yeah. I think you
Control
mentioned that.
my breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, control my breathing and work on my stress. Stay calm. Try to exercise. Do all the things, and when things get better, I'm sure it'll change, and we'll be much happier after this is all over.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do for release for emotional stress, but a lot of people have different vibes about that kind of stuff. And I don't know what they do. Maybe Angela can, she's got a lot of years. You have a lot of years. So we'll John, you think about it, and you're lucky you have a good relationship. People have different things that we do. I can't tell you or express how difficult pent-up anxiety in a newcomer can be. The frustration of not being able to get that fix, high or drink or whatever they needed to escape from themselves.
Mm.
And then, as we grow older, we say, my goodness, was I like that? Did I really do those things? Did I really feel that way? And then, the awareness of a better understanding to a way to sobriety, that we can work through this no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate your call again, Fred, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad that Angela mentioned that earlier too, because that is definitely something to take into consideration what we're all going through right now. Did you have some of that poem you wanted to read to us, or is it you just wanted to mention it?
I don't have it
Okay.
right in front of me, but
Okay.
if you want, I'll text it to you.
Just text it. Well, yeah, that'd be great. I'd like to check it out. Just go ahead and text it to me. You can send it through the chat here, whatever you want. Like that'd be cool. So thank you, Fred. I appreciate the call.
Okay. All right. Take good care.
You too.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, John.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Angela, I wanted to thank you for mentioning that, because God, this pandemic that we've been going through for the last year and almost
Mhm.
has been a huge, huge change in our lives. And, it happens little by little, day by day. And it just, after a while, you almost forget what the old life was and just
Yeah.
how much this is impacting us. But
Mhm.
it's a huge thing not to be able to go to meetings in person and see your friends, not doing the things that you would normally do, just going to a movie and things like that.
Right.
It
Not being
just
able to go to a meeting and, and be annoyed at somebody at the
right,
meeting that you don't
right,
really, like that much, and
right,
yeah,
right.
I mean, you can't even do that,
Yeah,
and, so, yeah, I mean, it is completely different, and
it's a different
people's
world.
energies, are so drained with all of
Yeah,
the different decisions that they have to make that, I mean, in some ways it's good because we have to really look at, our choices now on things that used to be pretty automatic on, a lot of us, go through life, even after, we get sober, just kind of doing the same things and everything's pretty rote. And so this has changed that. But in doing so, it takes a lot more energy. So I often
mm,
talk about not having enough emotional bandwidth to deal with something.
yeah,
So there's certain weeks where I'm better than others, but there are times when somebody brings something to me and I'm just like, you know what, I don't have enough emotional bandwidth to talk about that right now or to deal with that right now. And maybe if I get some sleep I'll be able to look at it in the morning. But yeah, having that, and yeah, and as Jackie says, the Christmas and all of that stuff coming up again. I mean, I guess it does every year, until the heat death at least. But yeah,
mhm,
those are things that always have pressure around them
yeah,
for a lot of us, and so then we learned, or most of us learn, how to get through them sober, and then now we have something new that we need to adapt to, and and I know we'll do it. I just have to have patience with myself and
yeah,
others, and sometimes I do better than that with than other days and stuff. I know for me, I've been feeling somewhat bad that I haven't maintained some of my friendships
mm,
as much as I used to.
yeah,
And part of that was that I'd have a schedule of certain people that I wouldn't get to see that often, but quarterly or something we'd go have lunch, or we'd do things, or checking in with each other and stuff, and they haven't checked in with me, and so there's that snarky part of me that's like, well, then I'm not going to check in with them, and then
yeah,
and then I'm like, we're all tired, and yeah, and so when I have the energy and time to sit and text for a few minutes or see if they want to Zoom, I can do that. But yeah, trying to keep it all in perspective, that yeah, it's
yeah,
different,
that's
and
important.
yeah, it might be different next Christmas in a different way than it's different now. And
Yeah,
so yeah, and I think part of that has to do with the step we're talking about. I think they
mhm,
get to it a little bit more towards the end, but but really, holding on to things lightly, I
yeah,
guess. Not being too attached to how I think things should be. The part in here on the ways of deceiving. I really liked that one today too. We have many ways of deceiving ourselves. We deny that we have a problem. We hide a problem behind a visible asset or success. We give our problem a new name. That's always fun.
ah,
I like new names, or terminology. I
yeah,
guess it should be for me. A new terminology. I like it. Anyway, we manipulate or blame others. We control. We knock ourselves out to please, to be good. We bully. We act helpless. We rationalize and justify. The list goes on in endless
mhm,
variation. And I think I've done all of that today.
yeah.
so so yeah, so this is definitely a good thing for me to be catching up on and reading on.
I'm looking at the section now about, and this is where I think I was where I think possibly where I was thinking that they didn't totally do away with the powerless part, but they said,
Mhm.
we are packed full of self and loaded with false power. One thing true of most of us is that we are full of ourselves. We are tied up in our own knots. We have no objectivity about what we think, feel, or do. We are full of our pain and our rigid view about ourselves, other people, and our problems. We are full of confusion, resentment, blame, anger, self-justification, and self-pity. We can't realistically see our own part in our problems because we can't realistically see ourselves. We are
Mhm.
unable to see, stop, or control what we do that causes us so much pain. The weaker we feel, the more powerful we try to be. And the more powerful we try to be, the more we fail. It goes like this. We can't see we can't see what the real problem is. We can't see any solutions except those that come from our own confusion. We take our confused solution and act on it compulsively again and again. It doesn't work, or it may work for a while, but eventually it will fail and things will go back to the way they were before we tried to fix them. We do this dance again and again. And that is really a
Mhm.
great description of addiction, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or any compulsive behavior.
Right. Yeah. It applies to all of them, I think.
Yeah. But that's just, I mean, that I relate so well to that. And I think that I like the way that I just like the way they wrote it. I mean, it's just something about it. Something about the verbiage that they use, the language that they use here is less, I don't know, it's less biblical, I guess, or something than what you find in the big book. And I know the big book, they
Yeah.
were trying really hard not to be authoritative or anything, but it was just it you could tell obviously when you know the history of AA, you can tell that they came from that, you
Mhm.
know, background.
Right. Right.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, the way that they talk about, I mean, it starts out with we're packed full of self, and loaded with self-power, but I don't feel like it's as, critical, on, self as it's not as blaming.
Right.
So the way that they phrase it, it makes it so that you can see, how you take part in something without it being that, that you're doing this because you're a piece of shit, or
Right.
you know,
Right.
or there's something completely, innately wrong with you. It's showing you a dynamic that's happening that you're participating in, and
Mhm.
to explain, why you're frustrated. And so I like that.
We take our confused solution and act on it compulsively again and again. That was me. That's how I dealt with my drinking, and, I'm sure that's how I'm dealing with other things too.
Right, right.
It's a closed little system, it says. This is really a good book.
It is.
The
Yeah,
more I read it, and when you read it kinda slowly and go over it like this, you can really appreciate it, can't you?
yeah, yeah. And like I said, I think it's kind of more on the emotional sobriety angle,
Mhm.
and yeah, goes at it from that, because there are a lot of things in here that I didn't get the first time around, or that I haven't really read in anything else that has stated it, in a way that caused me, I think, to look at more of the emotional and feelings
Yeah.
side of why I did these things. It wasn't, just because I liked the taste of alcohol, because I really didn't. um, for me, it was a confused solution,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. And our lives become unmanageable because we have to believe that we are powerful. We have to believe we are in control. We need to be in charge.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that
there's
I
a
think that
caller.
it applies to so many different
Yeah.
people and situations.
Hello, this is area code 905 calling. How you doing? This is John.
Yeah, this is Bob K. How you doing?
Oh my goodness, Bob K. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a big Zoom addict. It's like I'm in the Zoom Olympics for going to meetings, trying to set the new world record or something. And
Yeah.
I was in Orlando, Florida at 7 o'clock. They have a crazy cool meeting there. A lot of young people, and the Toronto meeting's vibrant.
Mhm.
there's a lot of people staying sober that have never been to a live AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And isn't that exciting?
That's pretty cool.
And not to dismiss others that are struggling. And this is probably a harder condition, but people are doing it, and it's fabulous. I want to say something about powerlessness.
Okay.
I wrote an essay for a website you might have heard of called AA Beyond Belief.
Oh yeah, it's a great site.
And,
I'm not sure. Can you spell that out for me so I can write it down here?
I'll put something in the chat.
Okay,
But,
great.
anyway, I wrote an essay called Powerlessness and Other Stuff, and it's about the imperfection of some of the wording in AA, like allergy and, is it a disease? And, the essay starts with, somebody held the gun to my head back when I was drinking and said, don't take, I'm going to shoot you if you take the next drink. I cannot take the next drink, so it's not absolute powerlessness in some sense. But, I look at the first step today. Things for me have got simpler, not more complicated. The first year I tried to make it complicated, and somebody finally said, you're too smart for AA. And I said, finally, some recognition. They can give me a hard time. And, I can't drink moderately. I proved that over and over again. And I took a long time to get convinced of that. And I can't quit drinking on my own. So is that powerlessness? No, I don't think it is exactly. But I can't quit drinking on my own. It's I need help. And, the difference between the God fundamentalist and me, I think there's a lot of middle ground between the, supreme being and just Bobby Kennedy's willpower.
Yeah.
There's some other things. And, AA is a tremendous resource. I did my first 20 years purely conventional meetings. And, now with the Zoom thing, I do mostly the agnostic. But, I have friends in AA and, I go to some other meetings and, I don't do Zoom all day. I'm actually very busy. I'm editing a book and doing that type of stuff, which is solitary work. And then in the evening, I'm ready for some company, and we're not in an era that you do your normal stuff.
No.
And, so, Zoom's been a big help to me, and especially other single people. I'm surprised at people not taking advantage of the resource, especially in the secular community. We complain about God at all the regular meetings they go to. Then I can go to 20 meetings a day that don't talk about that, and people don't go.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I appreciate you calling, Bob, and I put a link to your story up there, and I think you made a really good point. That it's not completely black and white, and there's there really is a lot of nuance. But if you look at the big picture, if you kind of stand back and look at the big picture of if I look at the big picture of how I drank and what my life was like, it was out of control. I was out of control. My drinking was out of control. But were there nights when I could go out with friends and seem to be somewhat normal? I guess there were, So it's a weird thing.
So
it's a weird thing.
We can put too much on the wording.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is I can't drink moderately, and I can't quit drinking. I tried for 2 years really hard to quit drinking on my own. I knew a little bit about AA. I didn't think it was for me. So I tried, and I would try, and, I didn't really fail. I just kind of changed my mind, we'll go drink this weekend and we'll get back. We'll start fresh on Monday. And, not real good. And I can quit drinking for a few weeks, and that kind of fools myself. And I say, oh, maybe I'm not a real alcoholic. And a real alcoholic, real alcoholics drink every day.
Right.
And there's the self-deception. I mean, I do it enough about regular stuff in my 30th year of sobriety, but I used to be a lot worse because I did it about booze and drugs, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, good talking to you.
Nice talking to you. Thanks for calling.
About the history panel. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Be well, Bob.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Peter T writes, I'm not powerless over alcohol, or I wouldn't be abstinent today. I'm powerless under alcohol, so I choose not to put myself under it. It's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah. And to combine it with what I was saying, I, used to say that if I could drink moderately, I'd do it every day.
Yeah.
So there, just not something I can do. But one of the things, I think on page 19, I'm not sure where we are on the thing, Our Lives Become Unmanageable. But
this was 19.
What I like is our potential to heal is tied to our understanding of the following: 1, what is within our power; 2, what is beyond our power; and 3, where we can join with wider powers. And I kind of like that, rather than getting too much into the powerlessness and such. And because I think that I wasn't one of the people that felt great, right away. Even the fact that I could get to 30 days, it wasn't like such a huge relief to me, because I was still, had a lot of guilt and shame, and it didn't feel well physically. And so it wasn't, that wasn't the big relief about powerlessness or anything. So I think it was when I started to get into understanding a little bit more about, this serenity affirmation and stuff, which is basically what this is. But, but how it goes with, my potential to heal. Because just saying it isn't going to change a whole lot. But it isn't just something nice to say. But that trying to figure out, what is it within my power, and what is beyond, and where can I join with wider powers. I like that too as well. As the ability to know the difference, that kind of a thing. I like the joining with wider powers, because I think that's much more open, and it gives opportunity. And so it takes away my feeling of helplessness, which sometimes is tied to powerlessness, not always, but oftentimes. And I needed to see ways where, I could have some sort of power, or at least be a part of a power. And so that's where the group was really helpful for me, was that it was part of something that was greater than myself. And so I used that in early sobriety as, part of my step 2 was the group. And then part of step 3 was more of the program as a whole, the things that we do in AA, going to meetings and being of service and sharing with one another, and, and trying to improve ourselves. So
here's a sentence I really like. With step 1, we go forward far enough to step back from ourselves and see that all our efforts and solutions have not helped. We are still the way we do not want to be. So you just you go forward enough to step back and actually see what's really going on. We become aware that our efforts to control have kept us stuck. With fresh honesty, we admit there is something wrong with the way we are living. That was my experience. Bobbert, I'm powerless over alcohol like any other food drink I put in my body. The body does its thing, and I have no control over that. I can't change wine into water. It's interesting. Yeah, I can see that. You have your body has a reaction to, my body has a reaction to alcohol, which is different than other people's. It does something to my brain, is how I see it. Gets my things going, whatever. Those what are they called? The dopamine.
Yeah.
I believe in that theory, I guess. That's one I buy, because that's only because I'm really not educated enough to really understand any other way. So I just say, okay, that works for me.
Right.
Step 1 gives us insight that cuts through our excuses, our rationalizations, our justifications, our blame. In other words, through our denial. It cuts right to the heart of the problem. As Walt Kelly's cartoon character Pogo said, "We has met the enemy and he is us." Pretty profound.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, that
Pogo.
cartoon, but yeah.
I was never a Pogo fan. I've seen it and never would stop to read it. Actually, when I used to read comics, what did I like to read? I think I always did read Peanuts, but I don't ever read the funny papers anymore. I don't think they have them.
Yeah. What are the funny papers?
Oh boy, I remember as a kid, I always looked funny. Always look forward to the funny papers. Anyway, oh yeah, Dagwood, I think, is one I used to always read. Blondie, yeah, whatever it was, I can't remember. Anyway, sorry, a little diversion there.
Yeah.
So, we admit our powerlessness and amazing things happen. So this was my experience, and this is what I'll say to someone who, back when if I'd ever worked with somebody, if they had a problem with the whole admission of powerlessness, first of all, use whatever language you want to, but just recognizing that I have a problem is what sets me free to finally do something about the problem. If I never really stop and look and say that yes, there's a problem here, if I can't ever come to make that admission, I'm never going to have any chance of doing anything about it to change. So, that admission does make things happen.
Yeah. But it isn't that easy
No,
for a lot of different areas. So
true. True.
yeah.
Yeah, none of it's easy. It just, in fact, this period of my life when I was going through all this, uh, probably one of the more difficult times of my life. It was one of those times when I was really on the edge, or ledge or edge, whatever.
Hmm.
I could have gone either way. My life was really on the line at that time. I could have just as easily have drank and gone on to a miserable life as I could, deciding to go into recovery.
Hmm.
And that I somehow made it through that period and stayed with it in AA is, I don't know. I guess I consider myself lucky when I think about the people who aren't making it today, you know?
Yeah.
Joe says, or not. Yeah, Joe, I have a 5-gallon bucket full of secular books from binge buying. We're lucky that we have so many books.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So much more, because this was the only book for a long
Mhm.
time. And then, as many people know, it went out of print. And that's when Roger C. came to the rescue and was able to get the rights to it and start reprinting it. And then more have followed, more ideas and more books, and I love that. I was actually, when we were talking about this, looking in. I've said before that I love The Little Book, a collection of alternative 12 steps, also a Roger C. Effort. But in the back of that, it has each step, and then it has like Dr. Alan Berger's, take on step one, and Stephanie Covington, who wrote A Woman's Way through the 12 steps, which has helped a lot of women because it uses, a slightly different language that is more relatable. And then Gabor Mate, who, I just love in general. And I really like his take on step one. Step one accepts the full negative impact of the addiction process in one's life. It is the triumph over the human tendency to deny. We recognize that our resolution and strategies have not liberated us from the addiction process and all its mechanisms that are deeply ingrained in our brains, emotions, and behaviors. So, for me, I really like that because, it does look at our alcoholism or addiction or whatever, as a strategy, and that it wasn't an effective one. And that there's more going on in there, and that, again, I think that applies to a lot of different things, because drinking wasn't my only solution. It was one of many, and that yeah, if I just stop drinking and don't look at these things and don't deal with this stuff, then I just find a different solution oftentimes that is not always positive.
Have you ever heard of this? Excuse me. Have you ever heard of this book that Joe mentioned, A Skeptic's Guide to the 12 Steps?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, but is it one where he is talking, is it mostly towards overeaters?
I don't know.
I'd have to look, because there was another one at about the same time that I checked out, but it, in the end, it seemed to be, going towards the, more the accepting higher power type of thing. Yeah. So I didn't like that one.
Yeah,
so yes, I did read it. I mean, I could take a look at it again, and
yeah.
I may have a different perspective, a more open and, type of perspective to it than I did then. But I remember at the time that I read, this one and I think that one, and that as I was going through it, I'm like, wait a minute, kind of like reading, the We Agnostics stuff, where it sounds like it might be okay, and then in the end, it's just like, no, you need to get it together and do it our way, or.
What about A Woman's Way Through the 12 Steps? Have you read that?
Yeah, that's the Stephanie Covington one, and I know people in this area who've put together groups to go through it, women's groups to go through it. I didn't join them for that, but I've read her work, and then again, it's in the back of this this book, each take she has on the step, along with Dr. Alan Berger, who did the emotional.
Yes.
Yeah, thing. I love his work as well. And then, Gabor Mate. And then I'm not sure who the fourth person is. I haven't read any of their work, but she's apparently a practicing Buddhist, and does mindfulness in the 12 steps. So yeah, but I use that part of the book a lot when I'm sponsoring people to get a different perspective, because the language means something. And so I can say it, in one way, or try to explain what I think the principle or the idea of a step is, and get, a blank stare back, and then, read through one of those, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And it works better for them. And so sometimes, that is based on gender, and sometimes it's not, when, at least when I'm going through this with people, because I've worked with both men and women, and people who identify as different, things. And so but it was a big factor for me when I got to AA, was reading through it again and seeing that they had not changed the language at all since I was a teenager in Alateen. That reminds me, looking at Joe's name, that I was going to go down to our central office before all of this COVID stuff hit to see if there are any tapes of little Angie speaking at some of the annual conferences, because I know I did a couple of times, and that would be really interesting.
That would
be. Yeah.
I put a link up here, by the way, to Alan Berger's talk at the last emotional sobriety panel. It's now up at the freethinkerslivingsober.org website. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I see, Joe, what you're saying on there, and I'll check it out again. I mean, I don't know if it's the same book, but in the end of the one that I read, it was still more of the you needed to get on board with a higher power that was more of a supernatural sounding thing. And again, at least to me, and I didn't feel that when I read this book, even though they use, some language in there, like spiritual energy, that's written in there and stuff. It still didn't feel quite the same. And it could be because it's written by women.
It
as
actually
well.
didn't bother me, anything that I read from this chapter. I think they may have mentioned something Did they? But
Yeah, so like
nothing bothered me.
so on the right after they go through the, what's within our power, what is beyond our power, and where we can join wider powers, they
Yeah.
say when we understand this, we have the spiritual energy to face and walk through the pain we have worked so hard to deny and manage. When we admit powerlessness, we can see choices where we couldn't see any way out. We gain freedom in our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. We find we actually have a lot of power to change ourselves, but only ourselves. This is different from the tight, self-controlling power of the past. This is a real power based in honesty and true understanding. Real power can't be achieved, only accepted. So,
Oh yeah, that was kind of cool. That real power can't be achieved; it can be accepted. That one had me thinking a little bit.
yeah, yeah. So this is true when alcoholics stop trying to manage their drinking, like you were saying earlier, and when worriers stop trying to manage their worries. When we
Yeah,
resign from managing the problems of others, the situation may continue, but the problems we make for ourselves disappear. We stop fighting for a new outcome. We simply let go of our interfering interest and control. We just quit. We don't try to figure it all out. We detach. So we let go of the things we cannot manage and practice constructive self-management through working the steps. And when we do, we find a life we lost when we became consumed with managing the things that can't be managed.
beautiful written.
Yeah, that's totally going in my holiday card.
Yeah. Well, this was a really nice conversation. I really enjoyed this. It turned out that just reading this and talking with you and chatting with the people in the live chat and Fred's call was just perfect. Just what I needed.
Yeah,
It kind of helped me out actually.
yeah,
So, some announcements. What announcements do I have to make? Well, Higher Palooza, of course, it's going to be December 20th. Yeah, that's coming up. Doggone it. Oh yeah, tomorrow's Eurostream. Eurostream. So we're having a Eurostream. It'll be at 6 o'clock p.m. London time. That's London, England. So join us. I'll be putting a link up here pretty soon. I did invite somebody from London actually, but it was like a last minute invite. I hope that he will get that and be able to join us. If not, we will have something to say, I'm sure. So join us tomorrow for another Euro stream. That'll be at 6 o'clock p.m. London time,
yeah.
and then
11 a.m. Mountain.
11 a.m. Mountain
Mountain is a
time.
very important time.
11 a.m. Mountain time, 12
Yeah.
p.m. Central time. Yeah, there you go. So I always, yes, so many time zones. It's
It just
confusing.
helps because when you say London, then my mind just kind of goes blank. I'm like, yep, that's a different time.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, fortunately I already have it in in my phone. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have the
Bob,
emotional bandwidth to try to figure it out.
Bob has an announcement too. He says
Ooh,
that tonight's history thing, early women in AA, and he gives a number. Is that I guess that must be a Zoom ID, isn't it? Um, it's
yeah.
at 9 Eastern. 9 Eastern. That's what is that? That's right now.
Is it right now?
I think so. Right now it's 8 o'clock Central time, which I think
Yeah.
is 9 o'clock Eastern. So maybe I'll check that out as soon as this is done here in the next couple of minutes here. Okay. Thank
Cool.
you, Bob, for that. That'll be interesting. Early women in AA. I'm gonna try to check that out. I don't have anything else to do
Yeah.
tonight.
Cool.
Oh yeah, Katie. She lives in yeah, I'll have to invite her. She would be a really great speaker. She lives in Belgium, I believe.
Yes.
And she's Irish and she's just got a really great way of communicating. She spoke at ICSA one of
Hmm.
the first night, and I liked her talk so much, and she was so impassioned. I put that recording on the front page of AA Beyond Belief in the speakers section. So I thought it was pretty good. She would be a good person to have on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess that's going to wind things up for the night. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. I really enjoyed this time with you. we will, believe it or not, be having another virtual ICSA. And I think I might have told Angela, I'm not sure, that after
No.
this, I'm done. I'm not doing this again.
Yeah, you put it in the chat. You're like, "I quit." And
I
I'm
said,
like,
this
"It
is it. I'm
wouldn't be
done.
an AA event if things
But you
didn't
know what
go
happened is
askew."
after we finished it, I actually had a good time and enjoyed it. I wanted to do it again. So so
That
there
seems
you
to
go.
happen to you quite a bit.
Yeah, it was. It was fun, and, the thing about it too, you get to meet people when you're working with them. It's like you're making friends, and so that's kinda nice.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and say good night.
Good night.
And that's it for another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast and live stream. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. You have a nice evening, nice weekend, hopefully, and a merry upcoming Christmas. Bye bye.